Welcome, welcome. I want to go ahead and get started so that we can have ample enough time to be able to talk to our esteemed panelists and be able to share out the great things that they are doing in our community in their work with homework. So again, welcome back to another edition of Spark and Share Tuesdays. I am your moderator for today. I am Katrina Brown. I serve as the Director of Program Operations with Homeworks. And in case you don't know what her homeworks do and you have that question about what we do, I have an answer for you. So we are a nonprofit that partners with schools to strengthen that vital connection between school and home. We do that by bringing in all of our stakeholders, our students, our families, and our teachers. Because without this group, we can't do this impactful work that we're doing. And so at Homeworks, we believe in the power of partnership. And when schools and families work together, guess what? Our students are going to thrive, right? And that is what we want to see as we are working to make sure that we are providing a space for our students to grow. And so many of our under-resourced communities wanting to focus on family engagement oftentimes are facing those systemic barriers and those structural barriers that prevent engagement at times. So whether it's a lack of time, trust, or access, Homeworks comes in to help bridge those gaps and to really help break down those walls. So our program gives educators the support they need with professional development, additional trainings, financial support so that they have year-round coaching that allows them to be able to work in this family engagement space because it is so important and it is so impactful. So today, while we are talking about these amazing teachers, I want to share with you 4 of our amazing partners that have been with us in this space that are experienced in the power of family engagement. They do it firsthand, they believe in it, and they have seen how this work transforms families and home. So this work is changing not just their classrooms, but it's changing the school culture, and they are advocates for this. So we are so excited to have them be a part of this conversation today. So whether you're new to the concept of family engagement or have been following our work, today is going to be an inspirational day for you to hear just how things are going. So before we jump into the discussion, I just want to introduce our panelists for today. So first we have Ms. Brandy Belger, who is an educator at Fairview Primary and Elementary School in the Jennings School District. She is a first grade teacher. She has little ones. So she is a first grade teacher. She is an experienced elementary school teacher with 24 years in the Jennings School District, and she is a proud mother of 4. Brandy is dedicated to fostering positive and engaging learning environments, and her passion for education and commitment to student success has been at the heart of her career, helping to shape those young minds and support their growth both academically and personally. Brandy's deep connection to the community has allowed her to build meaningful relationships with students, parents, and colleagues alike. Welcome, Ms. Belger.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes. Our next panelist is Dr. Tracine Carmartin. We call her Dr. C, so I'll be calling her Dr. C through this call. Dr. C is a social worker at Aspire Academy, which is under Confluence Academies, and she is a trauma-informed social worker. And for the past 30 years, Dr. C has been committed to working with children and families throughout her clinical practice in Michigan and Missouri. Over the years, Dr. C assumed many roles in addition to her private practice: clinical supervisor, behavioral consultant with juvenile justice, community agencies, and government entities. In addition, she is an advocate for equity, inclusion, equality, and accessibility for all individuals related to education. She, again, leads to her extraordinary opportunity as the trauma-informed social worker for Aspire Academy, and she was a prior homework site coordinator for us in the 23-24 school year. So welcome, Dr. C. So happy to have you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Katrina.
No problem. Next, we have Mr. Caleb Smith. He is a former homeworks teacher who recently transitioned into a district-wide role as the specialist on teacher experience and retention for St. Louis Public Schools. Caleb has been in education for almost 10 years now, starting his career in the Fox C6 school district and then going on to work with an amazing team at SLPS for the last 7 years. Currently, as I mentioned, Caleb works on the HR side with SLPS, recruiting qualified and amazing educators and onboarding and training international teachers. When Caleb isn't working, I already knew this. He loves to travel and he loves to find a great donut shop. So welcome, Caleb.
Thank you. I actually just got back from Disney World this morning. So
See what I'm saying? And last but definitely not least, we have Miss Dayla Wooldridge. She is an educator at David Barton Elementary School in the Boonville R1 School District. Dayla is a dedicated teacher at David Barton. She's been there for 4 years, and her experience has created positive and engaging learning environments for her students. She is passionate about inspiring students to reach their full potential through innovative teaching methods and personalized support. Dayla is committed to professional growth and collaboration with colleagues and families to enhance educational outcomes. Welcome, Ms. Wooldridge. So glad to have you all.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's dive right on in. So one of the first questions that I would love to ask of my panel is this particular question. Sometimes it's challenging when we want to build those strong relationships between teachers and families, but we know that even in the challenge is transformational. So can you all share how has Homeworks changed the way you approach building relationships with the families? And if you don't mind, feel free to share a story that shows that meaningful difference that you have been able to make for a student. So I'm going to start with Miss Brandy because she's the first person on my screen.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So in regards to that question, I believe that Homeworks acts as a vehicle that allows educators and school leaders to foster these transformative relationships between teachers and families with the goal of eliminating barriers for students and focusing on the whole child. Last year, one of my first Homeworks visits, after the visit, my student began doing a better job with getting homework done on a consistent basis and just making sure those school and home communications were being received by their parents. Because that was a bit of a struggle. But once we had the home visit, we were able to, talk about that. And a most recent visit with my co-lead and myself, it revealed that this family had a student that actually attended Fairview 10 years before. And she had tragically passed away. And we actually have a tree out in front of our school in memory of this pre-K student, big sister. And so we didn't have that connection prior to Homeworks. And so it's been great to be able to be in that space and make those connections.
That's awesome, Brandy. Thank you for sharing that. It's community, right? Community is, our schools were always the community hub, and that just speaks to going back to that space of our school being that community hub. So thank you for sharing that. Dr. C, would love to hear your input on this question as well.
I love this question. Again, thank you so much for having me here today. This really combines a couple of my passions, which is really family engagement being one, and Homeworks has been the vehicle for our Aspire families to really build on that. So everything is about building relationships, period. And so when things get real hectic in the beginning of the year and then we settle down and we see, kind of where kids are landing academically or even with a behavioral aspect, the important thing is to build that relationship with the family. So these opportunities, and especially this will be our 3rd year now, I think, at Aspire, like we've got it down. Like this is something we are all invested in making happen. And so particularly it for me as the social worker, it helps it gives the teacher not a push for me to build the relationship that I'm trying to do consistently, but what it does is it engages them to form that relationship with the parent when the child with an uncomfortable conversation, like this, you don't know that he's doing so poorly, but let's talk about it. And then let's meet up and have all of these fabulous tools that all the parents get so excited about, and setting up their little homework center. So all of a sudden, the sustainable aspect of this is that the student feels more comfortable because it's a success. The parent feels more like they know what their child is doing so that they're able to help with homeworks, and then become an even greater part of our community. I mean, it is like Miss Brandy was saying, it's transformational.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Dr. C. It's all about unlocking the power of home. That is a
Absolutely.
phrase you will hear around homeworks a lot. We help unlock the power of home. So that is just speaks volumes to why we use that phrase so much. So thank you for that. Miss Dayla, do you mind jumping in and sharing as well?
Of course, yeah. So with home visits, it's always very casual. We're not going in the homes for this gotcha. We're not monitoring the homes. We are there just to meet as a team to, praise your student. And also maybe we have some areas of growth that we can work on. So just communicating with the families, it's very casual. It's just a very welcoming environment. I can think of a specific example with a student that I have this year in class, very closed off, hard to break his wall to get to know him. I go to his house. He lives on a farm where he has chickens and ducks. I'm in a rural area. He has hedgehogs and snakes and dogs and cats. Like, he just kept bringing more animals out to show us. And it's something I would have never have known about him. And now when I see him, we can connect about that. I can ask him about, how are your animals? How are your farm chores going? So it's just such a nice way to connect with families where it's not so academic focused. You're able to build those relationships in a more casual way, and you're just able to connect. And they're able to see you as their teacher, like, I'm a human. I'm here to help you. We're all learning together. So, yeah.
That's awesome, Ms. Dayla. Thank you for sharing that, because sometimes kids see you all as so much larger than life. And when you all come into the home, it really gives them such a sense of security. And I applaud you for sitting around a hedgehog. I don't think I could have done that. But hey, that's what you get when you go to our different areas, and we love it all. So thank you for sharing that. And last but not least, Mr. Caleb, how would you like to share on that question?
So I definitely feel exactly what everyone said, especially around the relationships. And I can even remember back during COVID, because we were partnering with you all, and we had parents show up for visits instead of doing virtual because they were like, we love what you all do. And it was so cool in those moments to see like the bridge that Homeworks creates of building this bigger relationship and more driven relationship to have a community bond was so amazing. And I've been invited to weddings. I've been invited to, unfortunately, like funerals and graduations and all these amazing things, because when you build that relationship that you guys have transformed into a bigger style of school, it's not just the four walls, it's not just the hallways, it's not just that building, it's so much deeper. And I think that was something that's so amazing with this, is you build a relationship that is bigger than the data about your child, the behavior about your child. You build an actual real relationship. So
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Caleb. And to see all of you all in action, when actions speak louder than words, right? And so our families really have just embraced you all, because you all walk what you talk. And so they see the difference. And so they see that connection. And so to piggyback off of that, Caleb, I want to ask a question of the panel again. And Caleb, I'm going to start with you with this question. You talked about how you had families coming to the school because they wanted that interaction. But think about the reverse. Not all families are responsive to family engagement at times. And it's for various reasons. Sometimes it's lack of capacity on their part, lack of resources, lack of trust, things of that nature. Can you share an example of why homeworks has helped you connect to a family that has been a little more reserved? How has homework helped you break down those walls outside of the great example that you just shared?
Absolutely, yeah. So I would say the communication part of how important it is to like just keep reaching out, keep showing the great examples. I had the opportunity to create a newsletter every month, and like the kids were featured in the newsletter. So some of the conversation that I had with, I'll talk about one of the parents that I had. I actually was first grade teacher and then moved to fourth grade last year at the same school. So I had some repeat kids, which was phenomenal. But there was a family who I could never get a visit with whenever the child was in first grade. And it was because they felt ashamed of their home. And so homework showed me that, hey, it may not have to be at their home. It can be at a library. We ended up going to the McDonald's right there on the Riverview Circle. And we had ice cream together and it was amazing. And I could see in that moment how much of a relief it was, because hearing the story as well from the mom, she didn't graduate from high school. And so she didn't feel like the school bond was there to begin with. I personally feel like I'm a great person. I'm an amazing teacher, but sometimes you can't break down the barriers without a little more. And having that opportunity, that homework showed, hey, you may not get them here. You may not get this. Try this. And when we tried it, it worked. And so then going on that second visit, I actually got to go to Naraya's, or to the student's home, which was phenomenal. And it was kind of like what Dr. C and even Ms. Della said, of the fact of when you get them in their home, then it's like, I want to show you this, and here's your reading corner. Oh, and I want to show you this, and here's something my and it just grows into something bigger. And so I think with the Homeworks partnership, you see, yes, we want to get in the homes, but if for some reason there's a wall up, what's our next opportunity? And Homework showed, hey, try this. And we tried it and it worked. And then they felt welcomed and we got into their home, which was phenomenal.
Awesome. I love to hear it. I love to hear it. So, Ms. Taylor, I'm going to ask you to also piggyback off that question. How has Homeworks helped you connect with a family that you might be thinking of that may be a little hesitant, that you still need to kind of work up to being in the space with you in family engagement?
So some families, they do have kind of that past bias of maybe the school that they attended. They already have those biases in place. So just, meeting them where they are. And like Caleb was saying, we have had visits at the library, at McDonald's, at local parks, and that's such a great point to start. Because once they just see the Homeworks process, they meet the teacher, they see what we're about, then it's so much easier with the relationship going forward, to where they may feel open, allowing you into their home. Then they feel comfortable attending family dinners, attending the PTWs. So it's all about just, starting, meeting the family where they are, and starting, with just that simple positive relationship.
Absolutely. It's that patient persistence, right?
Oh, yeah.
Persistence. It's just a matter of staying the course. So I love that. Dr. C, how about you? You come from it from a different angle. How has Homeworks been able to help you connect with those families that may have some concerns?
I just love everything that we're talking about. I just get so excited hearing each of the stories and bringing it all together. So as with my role here, I have a lot of perspectives on some of our families that have, that are families in transition. Some are meeting other challenges that are necessary. Some also, like we sometimes forget that parents may have their own just natural barriers, or feel sometimes intimidated by the series of meetings or not understanding what's going on. And so the wonderful part about Homeworks is, and again, much to what everybody else's experience is that because of the relationships built and the trust that I can gain mutually with the families that I'm working with, and realize that they are being valued, that they are important. My job is to empower them and make them feel as if they are worth more than anybody's ever told them. And so having that caveat and getting to know them in maybe the most vulnerable circumstances has provided me a lot of leverage, especially with family dinners and when I was coordinator last year, to be like, come on, girl, I better see you at this thing. And what do you mean? Come on, we're going to meet here. And then we'd start doing double dips with families that really got excited because, I mean, how could you be this excited if it wasn't really true? So that happen more often than not, and that is what builds our school as a community.
Absolutely. Thank you. You're right. Aspire is a wonderful community. And one of the things that really sticks out with me about Aspire is that at one of the events, the mom pulled up and said, I was so happy when I couldn't find a parking space. That just speaks volumes and lets us know we are doing something so important. So it is those interactions that lead to those kind of responses. And so thank you for sharing that so much. And then last but not least, Miss Brandy, how has Homeworks helped you connect with a family that might be hesitant? Because the one thing I love about the Jennings community in Fairview, it is a generational thing. There are so many family members involved with your kids. So how has Homeworks helped you?
I love Homeworks. I love it. I had an experience where I had to schedule a Homeworks visit, and I had been working, trying to get it scheduled, and it was a challenge. Either, we got it scheduled, we finally got one scheduled, but then it ended up being a no-show. But when we had our parent involvement, our spring family dinner, the kid brought the parent out and probably like drug her by the hand. Come on, mom, you got to come to the school. And during the event, and we had such a good time. The mom, we talked, and she was like, I really wish we had an opportunity to have a visit. Being that it was spring, we were pretty much at the end of the school year. So, we were wrapped up with the visits, but to know that she saw what she was missing out on a little bit. And it was a reminder of how much those connections means to families and how important it is to find ways to engage. And then for the couple of visits that I've had recently, I want to, say that I'm proud of the parents for taking a chance, because when we got there, we got started explaining, just being casual. And, one mom was like, I didn't know what I signed up for. Y'all come to the house. I didn't know you all going to be all up in my business. And I was like, no, ma'am, that's not what we're here for. We're here for good, positive things to, praise your learner and to just, share and see if there are any needs that we can, meet. So.
Awesome. That's amazing, Miss Brandy. And again, it just shifts the dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really gives them a different perspective of the care and the trust that you all as teachers want to build with them, which in turn makes them want to give you all the same in return. So that is just awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So in these next few minutes, because we do want to have time for any questions that have come in from the audience as well, I want to ask each of you all individual questions that you all can speak to, that I know that you all are going to do great with speaking to. So I'm going to start with Mr. Caleb. Mr. Caleb, you transitioned into a district level role that's focused on teacher retention and experiences. So how will your work with Homeworks influence your approach to supporting teachers' professional development and growth long term?
Well, funny you should ask. I actually use one of your all's models in my onboarding with our international teachers and our first year substitute teachers. What that means is the building of relationships, especially for parent-teacher conferences. Yes, whenever you get hired back in August, and you don't have to worry about that till October and then March. However, it's a big deal. And one of the things that I love about your program is the fact of the model of a parent-teacher conference. And so we ended up doing it as like a blended of a workshop too, but we showed parents live what it was to be a teacher, because like several of you mentioned, some of them have no clue what life is like in our schools anymore. They have kids that are in a newer age, technology, the absence of trust is a big deal in schools today. And one thing that I share with all of our new hires is the fact of when it comes to parent-teacher conferences, here's a great model. And the model that I give to them is show parents what you do to teach. Go into a data folder. So what that means is exactly what Homeworks taught me is show the data. Show where their kid started, where their kid's going, but where their kid wants to be. Something that Miss Anna had showed us, I think 2 years ago, was the fact of make them make goals, a personal goal. And you will be amazed about the kids that, oh my God, I went up 0.1. Can I change it? And it's like, no, we have a date on it. But the kids have a drive with it, right? And so the other side of that too is just the setup of that relationship that you need in the parent teacher conference. And it so far, I actually got to hop into two of our international teachers, parent teacher conferences, and they were literally doing like the live thing that I learned with Homeworks. And it was so amazing to see the connection that our new teachers saw in this amazing program, even though they're not technically Homeworks people. But because you guys fed into me and then I could feed into them, it's making education a better place for families, which I think is huge and part of the staple of what I took away from Homeworks, of the fact of there is such a bigger picture to building the relationship. And with that positive spin, we're able to show these new teachers, hey, if you do this model and you do some type of this and you share this, the parents are going to want more, and then it's going to open up an avenue for you to have better relationships. So the role that I have I almost said transported into, that I am now in, it's taken this classroom perspective, and now I have that opportunity to show. Honestly, I've onboarded over 100 new teachers, and I have shared this model of, hey, this is something you can do that will help build that connection to last for the whole year, but then also come around next year and the next year.
Awesome. Caleb, that is so exciting. It's all about that sustainability, right?
Yeah.
And it's all about that continued education. So I'm so thrilled to hear that. We got to talk more about that. That is amazing. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Dr. C, so as a social worker, you bring a unique perspective to family engagement, especially when it comes to our students who are exhibiting some trauma, who are having some behavioral challenges. So how have you seen family engagement through Homeworks benefit our students who we just need to help impact their progress while considering those factors that might be contributing to why they might be struggling?
I love it. Well, data is one area. Thank you, Caleb. And I'll get to that in a second. But the other part is every one of these babies here belong to me and their families as well. And I really feel that I can say that and represent our staff and everyone at Aspire. That being said, we also have several families, and you don't like to talk about it, but are very challenged. And these could be families that already have their own mental health issues, that have their own trauma responses from other issues from their past, homelessness, food insecurities. We're looking at loss of job, loss of housing, transportation. So because of my multi-level roles, I'm aware of all of those particular situations and certainly the behavioral aspects of the kids with the way that we have our PBIS set up. And like I'm, outside of the team that we use or that attack these issues, I'm a point person, because then there's a follow-up because I want to link and coordinate resources that are needed. Now, what's so extraordinary is that I've built these relationships with these families, and because they've always felt as if they were less than, once they have a win and they feel empowered and they feel valued and that they are an intricate piece of this Aspire community, then you see a whole transformation within the family themselves. And just because that they are being talked to respectfully, because it matters what they say, it matters what they want for their child. And so many times there's stigmas and they just haven't had somebody so interested in their success academically and behaviorally. And so the twofold for me, oftentimes I'd go with one as a leader or co-leader to my families, and I would be able, the teacher is going to be, and there was a trust factor there. So if I went, the family that might be a little bit too hesitant, okay, you're going to be there, Dr. C. Cool. The other part is I can check in on some of the behavioral strategies that we have been working on that have generalized into the home to create sustainability. And when that happens, it's magical. I just got chills everywhere just now. And that is really the key component. And then when we look at the end of our data, when we have a behavioral concern or an academic concern, across the board, we have seen that progress increase and those moments of, self-regulation decrease. And it's great because not only are the parents being empowered to learn how to help their students at home, they're also helping their students' behaviors at home. So, everybody's doing it together. And I think that that's one of the other unique aspects as a social worker, that this fits so well within our community.
Thank you for that. It's the social determinants of health. We cannot
Yes.
take them for granted. And so when we consider all the factors, we are just doing our families a great service of making sure that they are thriving and we are supporting that piece that just sometimes goes unnoticed. So thank you for sharing that, Dr. C.
Thank you.
Ms. Dayla, how has Homeworks adapted to meet the needs of David Barton's rural school community? Now, I got to say, David Barton is a very close-knit community, and I love it. Our program leader, Leslie, she knows everybody. So it has been a really great thing to see. So how has Homeworks helped in our rural school?
Yes. So I'm going to focus on events. So more like family events, parent-teacher workshops. So we have about 10 Homeworks teachers on our staff. So it is all hands on deck with these events. So in order for our teachers to socialize with families, to sit down and have dinner with these families, we have amazing volunteers. So we have had a local college, a whole softball team serve dinner for us so that we can socialize and eat with families. We have local clubs that'll sit down and do our check-in process for us. So we love how our community has, just taken on Homeworks. They've helped us out so much. Whenever we find like local vendors for food, we've been able to use families where they have children and grandchildren in our school district. So we're able to help them out, and just continue to create those connections, to strengthen those connections. And we couldn't, do it without our volunteers in our community. We've been able to have local sponsors as well help us out with Homeworks. And it's great because, they have kiddos that are in our district. They get to have these visits. They get to come to our events and see why Homeworks is so powerful.
Yes, that's amazing. That is one of the benefits of our rural schools. It's that tight-knit community. Sometimes that in the bigger cities, sometimes you lose because there's so many people in so many different spaces. So thank you for sharing that. You all have been rock starring it out with all those community partners. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And Miss Brandy, before we jump into any questions from the audience, my question for you, and I want to start with just some thoughts about how schools have historically been the cornerstone of our neighborhoods, right? They, over the years, have lost that sense of togetherness, so that sometimes we take for granted. So how do you view the role of external partners contributing to the success at Fairview? For instance, we have the high school students coming over and they help out and the band plays and all of that. There was a gentleman from the community that cooked the hot dogs for one of the last family events. So how do you feel Homeworks is helping Fairview regain togetherness through our community partners?
Well, at Fairview, we're working intentionally to rebuild those lost connections. And the Homeworks school-based events that we have are instrumental in making sure that we're bringing our community back together. And like you said, the Jennings, we place a strong emphasis on fostering the connected school community. And Miss Jones, one of our Homeworks teachers, which is a powerhouse kindergarten teacher as well in our school, she excels in student engagement, and it is at her charge that she is organized for those high school volunteers to come over and volunteer for our family dinners, helping with childcare and the activities, so that the parents, teachers, and staffs can have those meaningful conversations without interruption. And like you said, just having everybody be involved, pulling from all aspects, all hands on deck, so to speak, to make sure that we are striving to include our local businesses, as you mentioned, the family that owns the food truck joined us and served us delicious hot dogs and fixings. And these events showcase the support and collaboration within our community, within the Jennings community, and making it clear that we're pulling out all the stops to foster a strong and connected school community.
That is awesome. And our goal is to keep that going at all of our schools, really rebuilding community, really wrapping our arms around our students and families so that they know this is not just fluff. This is a commitment that we are making to the community to rebuild engagement. So thank you all for that. Catherine, do we have any questions in the chat that our teachers can answer for our audience?
No questions in the chat yet, so I'd encourage everybody to go ahead and jump in if you have any specific questions. But I did get an email question earlier today, just if you guys could speak on what that relationship does to like actual academic growth, because we know that's an outcome of what we do. So if you can speak on that.
Who would love to jump in first?
I
Go ahead, Caleb.
Okay. I was trying to be polite. No, I would say it helps because you have a lot of checks and balances that you do with homeworks, right? So we have our visits, but then we have our workshops, then we have our parent family engagement nights. And so they're getting several honest touches from the school, but it's because homework's putting that drive behind it. And so with the data, kind of like what I spoke about with like the parent teacher workshop, right? Or parent teacher conference / workshop that we did. You start that literally day 1, day 2-ish, whenever you do testing. And so the cool thing with homeworks is, one, you guys gave us a great platform of, hey, try this. Let's talk about it on this date. You go into the home, hey, this is where it is, but then you put it back into the face of the kid or the scholar and the family, right? Like, okay, you're at a 1.2 reading level. Where can we be by the winter break? And you have that conversation as a team, not just as a teacher, not saying, oh, well, St. Louis Public Schools or whatever district, we want to have everyone read 2 points ahead, right? You have that real conversation. What is realistic for your child? What is realistic for you, mom, for you, dad, for you, grandparents, to where you have to help too. And I think that's the next platform of how the data gets stronger, right? Is because you bring it to that home visit. Then you have that check-in. Hey, just checking back. Your child said they wanted to grow from a 1.2 to a 1.5. Right now, based on our scores, they're like a 1.4. So please be reading every night. Please work on this extra math thing that we're working on. And so it gives that bond to where then the data point is not just the teacher. It's not just the student. It's every single person a part of this connection. And I think that's one of the biggest things that, to your question, Catherine, of the fact of when it comes to data, I think that's where my lens also shifted with homeworks is, no, it's all of us. Like, it's not just the teacher giving the instruction. It's not just the kid receiving the instruction. Mom, dad, caregiver, you have to help too. And I think it also gives that platform of ownership of parents don't realize, oh, wow, like, oh, my kid's there and they need to be here, or, oh, wow, how can I get there? Right? Because no one wants their kid to be behind. So as soon as you have that real, honest conversation, it's like all hands on deck. Let's get to this party.
Absolutely. Would anybody else like to jump in on that comment? Yes, Dr. C.
It was just made me think about so many things. All right. So one of the really cool things, and it really generated from Caleb's comment, is homeworks is almost like a religion in everything that we do at the school. All right. It's just something that we have lots of commitment to. The best idea ever, Miss Harmon, our principal, and I think Sue from last year, maybe the year before, started our parent orientation with our first family dinner for homeworks. So when you starting off the year fresh and realizing that this is a program that will be sustained throughout the year, has been sustained, and gives people the opportunity to know right then we're a family together and we're going to address these things. And I think what's even more important is even like there's a lot of schoolwork parents can't help their kids with. I mean, there's math now. I cannot do the math that these second graders do it. I'm not, you're right. And I'm okay to say that. So if I'm having difficulty, imagine when a kid's coming home with homework anyway, that the family's already feeling defeated. And they probably got a phone call for something else, and this is going on with the other kid, blah, blah, blah. When they are able to have that conversation, then they feel the win because the parent themselves does understand what's going on. And that data point that needs to go from, level one or blue or green or red, it's sustainable and attainable. I mean, that can very easily be done in the first semester. I mean, those are not things, we're not setting anybody up for failure. And to Caleb's point again, when we see those data points at the end, that's amazing. I love empirical data. That's my jam, right? I need to have the fidelity of the things that we're working with. But really, the win is with the families themselves, and that this child feels as if he's not going to act out in class now because he knows what he's doing. He's doing pretty good, right? And there's been so many great ideas too from Hannah this year, as well as like sending those positive notes both to the parent and the child, the student. So, we're really kind of saying all the same things, but
Yes.
we're saying them because it works. And we see the success. Yep.
Absolutely. Really quick, Miss Brandy or Miss Dayla, do you have anything to add?
I did.
Go ahead.
So one thing that I'm seeing firsthand in this year and last year is one thing that when I do go in the home, I like to share those tips and strategies and things, right? And so, we're asking about reading and how's reading going. And one thing I like to always share with my families is that if they would take the charge to foster and nurture the love of reading, spend time with books, build your home library, purchase books from our monthly book club orders. I'm sending books home, spend time with books, and then I'll focus on the reading skills. I'll focus on teaching them how to be proficient and great readers while you're just enjoying books and stories at home. And so I think being able to, tell them that, to tell the parents that, this is the part that I need you to do to help, your learner to grow. And that's just to, share your love of reading or share the love of reading. And that'll make them all the more eager to hear what I have to say.
Awesome. Thank you. Miss Dayla, would you like to close us out?
Yeah. So, kind of echoing what Brandy said, just teaching families that, you do not have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to strategies you have to do at home. Reading to your child, incorporating math games with your family game night. They're very simple tools that you can do at home that make a big difference in the classroom. Because after we have those home visits, when that child is sitting in class, they're being held more accountable for their learning. We've set that goal. They've reviewed their data. They know where they are and they know where they want to be. So they're more accountable for their learning. They're an advocate for their learning because, hey, my teacher's been in my house, met my family. I'm not afraid to ask these questions. I will advocate for my learning. I know that my teacher wants me to win. I see that they have connected with my family. They're a team and they want to see, me be successful because the ultimate goal is that our, children, they're able to feel loved and they're able to sit in class and, be productive learners.
Absolutely. So I can't think of a better way to end this conversation with all the amazing nuggets that you all just dropped. I mean, if there's any school out here that wants to know why they should be doing it, they have just received all the reasons why they should move forward. We all say, just do it, like Nike, just do it, right? Because it ultimately is a win-win for our schools, our students, and our families. So as we get ready to close out, I want to thank you all for joining us on the third installment of Spark and Share Tuesday. This has been an amazing time hearing from our extraordinary panel of teachers, and we hope that you have gained some insights that will just help you understand why family engagement is so important to all of us. And if you're interested in going deeper, scan that QR code that you're seeing on the screen. That is for our impact report, which highlights stories where you can gain more insights of what our role in the schools and communities is doing and how we're shaping up to be just great partners in this work of family engagement. And for any educators or school leaders who are inspired by today's discussion, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, I am Katrina Brown, Director of Program Operations. I would love to have deeper conversations with you all about how we can support one another. Because again, this is win-win. This is working for our families, and we want to make sure that all of us are in the space to support where we need to support. And if you're attending the upcoming National Center for Families Learning Conference in Louisville, Kentucky, come say hi to Anna and I. We will be presenting next week in Kentucky, just talking about homeworks and the joy that we have in working in this space with families. And we are talking about just that, moving from relationship to partnership, because we want to move from families just being involved to them being engaged. So that is another place where you can engage with us. And last, follow us on all social media platforms. We would love to have you all engage with us. There are great ways on our social media platforms to keep up to date with everything that we're doing. And any resources that we are pumping out, please use them. Because again, this is for our community. This is for us to grow together so that we can be a support for our families. And finally, if today's stories have moved you, please consider supporting Homeworks, right? We are 100% donor funded, and your contributions help continue to keep this spark going. And so we really want to continue to unlock the power of home. And you will see that QR code, the QR code on the screen as well. Again, scan it and be inspired to give. So thank you all again. We are at 1:16, and I want to respect everyone's time, but thank you all again for joining this session of Spark and Share. Please, 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 please engage with us, join us in this movement, and thank you for being a Homeworks family member. You all have a great Tuesday and a great week. Bye, everyone.